Good afternoon, students. This is Mr. Bauer. Today is Tuesday, May 18th, and this is your lesson for today. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it to class. Now, I just want to tell you, you will have to take notes on this lesson and then post the notes by 4 o'clock today in in week 17 of Schoology to prove that you did this. If not, you will not be getting credit for attending class today. All right, well, let me share screen with you. And then what I'm going to do is go over the notes for the final exam. And that's what we're going to be going over. The final exam will be 1 week from today. So basically you have today to study for it. Thursday's class will be going over information on it as well and reviewing. And we'll also be talking about when we're going to be doing a final project. All right, so the final exam goes over all the information that we've gone over this entire semester. So let's review each part. First, I'm going to review Unit 1 with you. This was on the origin of language and obtaining English. So first I want to say, in the origin of all language, there's two primary ideas that all theories about language come from. There's the reigning scientific theories that grunts eventually became words and people through evolution eventually acquired language. And then there's the reigning religious theories that language was gifted to humans by their creator and that they always had language from the time that there's ever been humans on the earth. Although both of these don't agree with each other, they do agree that there's a consensus that all language was originally spoken. The word consensus just means agreement, okay? So the scientists and the religious people both agree that language was spoken first before anything else, okay? Now, I also wanted to go, and there's 5 reasons that English doesn't make sense to people that are learning English. Reason number 1 was the British Navy. The British traveled and took English to the rest of the world, and they took foreign words back to England. Now, those words that they took back to English became part of the English dictionary. Words like tsunami that don't have English spelling or English sounds, okay? Or words like genre that have French sounds and stuff. But the problem is when they took these words back to England, they didn't obey the rules of English, so they don't really make sense. When you tell someone a rule and say, oh, this always happens, and then you write a word like genre that has a sound that's not even in the English dictionary, it's best pronounced as SHZ, which we don't have that sound in English, then it doesn't really make sense, okay? Second reason is frozen forms, which was the fact that some words are older than the rules of English. So let's just say, for example, 600 years ago, someone came up with English words and they spoke them just like normal, okay? Well, then let's say 400 years ago, someone said, English is all over the place. Let's make some rules so that all new words that are made will obey these rules. Well, the old words that they made before don't obey the rules because they're older than the rules, okay? So those are called frozen forms. Third one is dialects, which is English speakers speak it differently in different parts of the world. And that's very simple. It can go anything from a simple accent to different word choices to actual words that they may even use in different places they don't use, like here in America. There's reason number 4, which is slang. And that's the fact that English speakers sometimes make up their own words, okay? So there might not be a good word for something, so someone makes up a word or makes up a different way to say a word. A good example of that is the word ginormous, which is the words giant and enormous put together to make ginormous. That used to be slang, and then someone put it in the dictionary. The reason number 5 is slurring. American English speakers tend to skip letters and blend vowels. That's when you have a word like interest, which is actually spelled interest, or Wednesday, which is spelled Wednesday, okay? So we don't say all of the letters. We make up our own words. We don't speak it the same. We have words that are older than the rules, so they don't obey the rules. And we borrow words from all over the world that are not English, but we make them English, so they don't obey the rules of English. Okay, let's review Unit 2. There are 4 domains of language, and those domains are speaking and listening. Remember, someone speaks first, and then someone hears them. Then there's writing. Someone decides, I want to record what it is that someone said. So they figure out a way to write. Let's invent letters and make words out of those letters. And then someone says, well, I want to be able to read this. So the words that are written are now read. So they have to go in this order. Speaking occurred first and then listening. Now, when I say occurred first, I mean like the first time humans ever had any dealings with language in prehistory, speaking was the first thing that happened. And then listening was the second thing that happened. Someone spoke and someone heard what the other person said. And then someone wrote it down and then someone read it. Okay. Like, for example, you can't read something before it's written, and you can't write something before you hear it, and you can't hear something until someone says it. Okay. So it has to go in this order. Now, the next thing is the correlation of the four domains in language to the five senses. Speaking correlates to taste, listening correlates to hearing, writing correlates to touch, reading to sight, and memory to smell. Okay. Now, smell is sort of kind of like the unwritten domain. It's not really a domain of language because we don't smell our language. But learning styles of individuals also correlate to the five senses. So the verbal lingual person learns by speaking, okay? And that correlates to taste. The auditory learner learns by hearing and listening. The kinesthetic person is also usually good at writing, and they learn by touch. And the visual person is good at reading, and they learn by seeing. Now, again, this is not really a learning style, but nasal, or our nose, is associated with memory and smell. But instead of learn by smelling, we say we learn by memorizing. So again, we're using that as sort of like, well, we have five senses and four domains, so we kind of consider nasal kind of like a domain of language, just because it would fit. Now, the 6 good reader skills are predict, infer, question, connect, evaluate, and summarize. Predict means to find out what happens next. Infer means to use what you do know to find out what you don't know. Keep in mind, infer can be like on a page or a chapter. It's not necessarily predicting the future. It's just figuring out something you don't understand by looking at clues. They're similar, but predict is always about the future and infer is about like right now when you're reading a story. Question, obvious, means to just make up questions to ask why something is going on in a story. Connecting is imagining you're in the story. Evaluating is the forming an opinion about the story, and summarizing is to retell the story without the details. Now for Unit 3, I'm going to have to let you do most of this one on your own. I don't have time to read all of these. But what I did is I took all of the different forms of figurative language and I connected them to all of the different domains where you usually will hear them or see them. And then I connected them to the places that you're going to find them. Like, for example, I put sarcasm is usually spoken. Usually common place to find it would be in conversation or British literature, because British people are very sarcastic. Okay. The next section here is on the genres of literature. I want you to remember some information on this. Again, the last section I'm going to need you to review on your own. But we have poetry, which appeals to the auditory learner. And here's some different genres of it, different sound devices. We'll cover this in more detail on the next lesson. Expository, and then narrative. I would need you to know the difference between the three. And I also need you to understand plot, timeline, and I'll finish up with the parts of the plot line. They are the exposition, character setting, atmosphere, events, conflict, what the main characters have to overcome, rising action, when the story becomes tense, climax, the highest action, what the plot builds up to, falling action, when the story winds down, and resolution, the final closing and the results of the actions in the story. Okay, I know this is going to be a short video, but there is other work for you to do in the chapter in week 17. So please make sure to do that. And I will talk with you later. Hope you have a wonderful day.